B&A, Brand New Animal by Studio Trigger is an ambitious anime, but it's as fun as the narrative is politically incorrect as the story opens its legs into a highway of discussing fascism, eugenics, evangelical fascism or religious fascism, and of course, racism, which is a garden variety of subjects told in X-Men stories featuring emotionally dysfunctional characters that are discriminated against because people are fearful of anyone with power and because power doesn't give up power. That fear permeates into hatred and loathing, boasted by a semi-illogical adult rationale and way of thinking that atrophies until someone coughs up belonging to a bag of ass and toilet brain logic. In the case of Marvel Comics and discussing the overall nature of the X-Men, originally the characters were an analogy on both racism and puberty, but now mutants have become analogous with just about every form of social diversity or anything considering outside the norm of societal standards. Like being a 23-year-old with Chernobyl syndrome or being a hikikomori that believes fictional characters are their friends, role models, and companions. But when the X-Men aren't political characters, mutants in the Marvel Universe are hated and feared because there is no predicting who could be a mutant until someone evolved or their powers appeared. But in addition to that, there was a perceived destiny where mutants would replace the current race of humans on Earth, and the fact that their powers can be wildly and extremely dangerous, and since these appeared normally at puberty, these highly destructive powers were in the hands of people who really couldn't use these powers responsibly. But you must wonder, what makes the X-Men different than the Fantastic Four or the Avengers? Well, mutants are born with their powers. People like Hawkeye and Iron Man earn their power through hard work. Others like She-Hulk, Captain America, Deadpool, and the Fantastic Four get their abilities through accidents. Or, if they're lucky, they get it on purpose like Captain America. These are all things that can, in theory, happen to anyone, meaning most of the hatred and prejudice against mutants are simply biological. It's true people are fearful of characters like the Hulk and Bullseye, but at the end of the day, they are just normal human beings. While mutants are homo superior, and because of characters like Magneto with their raging narcissism, mutants are treated as though they are the entirely different species than human, but they're not. They're just an offshoot of humanity, according to Marvel Comics lore. It's possible for two mutants to have a human baby, and even two humans to have a mutant baby. The problem is, mutants are a new minority, and people are either jealous or fearful that they can't be a mutant, or they'll become a fascist isolationist society that has strange music and a skeevy religion like they do in Jonathan Hickman's reboot of the X-Men characters, where they have advanced technology and tell everyone to finally fuck off on their living island. When I say living island, I mean the island is literally alive. But again, I point out it doesn't make sense that mutants would be hated and feared over other superpowered beings like, say, the Fantastic Four again. Especially when these people are constantly saving everyone's lives from aliens and God knows what's that's out there. Thus, the writers add more to the mythology of mutants, and we have these characters being referred to as Homo superior, and that these superior genetics would be passed on to the next generation of humans, eventually wiping out humanity as we know it in favor of everyone being Homo superior, which is displayed in the stories Earth X, Universe X, Paradise X, which are amazing stories written by Alex Ross and Jim Krueger. But keeping all the prior information in mind, a character like William Stryker, a fanatical Christian evangelist with a message saying that mutants are blights on humanity and all God-fearing people of the world, spreading his poisoned empire under the basis that mutants were spawns of Satans and needed to be eradicated, is somewhat plausible considering how much information people really know about Marvel mutants, which sums up to a total of nothing anyone can reasonably understand or that isn't hidden behind some SHIELD classified dossier. Brand New Animal is a show that operates on a complete tightrope, with Studio Trigger biting off more than it could possibly chew and began choking on its own food. In a total of 12 episodes, the narrator tries to craft a fully realized world while gobbling up straight dick as it explores political themes that writers weren't prepared to write about, making characters have cardboard cutout personalities and cliche ideological beliefs tied down to an engine block, which is completely counterproductive to the overall philosophy of most Trigger anime that revel in excess thematically and in animation, thus making the show somewhat intolerable when it doesn't sound stupid, and stupid when it tries to sound nuanced with its overtly political themes. And despite the show being, anti-human in a way, showing us life from a Beastman's perspective, almost every episode is about humanity, despite all the Beastmen in the story existing in an ethno-state. To further this hurricane in a rainbow narrative, Beastmen are discriminated against to the point of ad nauseum, where humans openly attack and kill Beastmen when they aren't selling children or their organs on into the black market, or beastmen trafficking them. But the punchline is that despite the story existing on a paradise for beastmen, the city isn't perfect. Here's the highlights. Despite all the prejudice and unbridled animosity between humans and beastmen, the story opts out and decides to explore racism and discrimination by having the evil terrorists who are evil because they like money be beastmen because they are evil and like money. To reiterate, beastmen are bombing their own cities, enrolling it, and everyone else in bullets because they're evil because of course they are. Now, the narrative would have you believe that living in an ethno-state would cause economical problems, thus causing trouble in paradise, making Anima City a hub for criminal enterprise, expanding its far-reaching influence into criminal underworld activities that branches to the top governmental administration of other countries, dealing in international criminal empires such as import and export, human experimentation, espionage and assassination, explaining how the city is able to stay afloat economically amidst living in an isolationist ethno-state, but nope! Gotcha! They're all evil because of course they are! Look, there's a woman running an orphanage for the wayward souls whose parents couldn't make it to Anima City, and is using it to sell children and organs to the mass-murdering humans they constantly talk about disliking. There surely must be a reason for this, or some kind of rationalization like some dark, eerie, seedy underbelly of international criminal enterprise within the city. Nope! Gotcha! She's doing it because she's evil, and of course she likes money! Meet Ariel. From The Little Mermaid, I mean Nita Flip, a beast woman who has an unhealthy obsession with humans. The same humans that are hell-bent on genociding their entire species. Having a drug-addled mind so deluded, it's her lifelong desire to experience what it's like to be a human. What's the punchline? The punchline is that Anima City is isolated from human society, and provides beastmen a home that they can live and flourish freely without the dangers and discrimination that is faced from human society. While there simultaneously exists a hidden society that reflects that of a normal human society, which counteracts the tranquility and sanctuary that Anima City is perceived to have to the public. Meaning, despite Anima City being a haven for beastmen, most of the society is designed around human culture. For example, the standard form for a beastman is their human form. Despite how xenophobic and racist most of these characters are, or, you know, species. Is that a thing? It must be a thing. Species. Yeah. When a beastman is ready to square up and fight, that's what their beast mode is for. Meaning that the only difference between humans and beastmen is their ability to transform into furries. Surely the stigma and prejudice aimed at these characters are well justified for some sort of logical reason, especially in this scene where this character, despite being a dolphin, can't breathe underwater while the selfish and evil humans she so admire watch her grasp for air with their thumbs up their asses. Nope! Gotcha! Slap me in the ass and call me Sally, but according to the lore, humans and beastmen originally got along like rednecks in a gun show. Then suddenly, with little to no explanation, the humans inexplicably attack the beastmen for no reason. This is later retconned when it's revealed that beastmen suffer from Neris-Vizsla syndrome, which is the result of a mass stress caused by several species of beastmen massed together in one diverse group, Anima City, which ultimately leads to them turning into raging, uncontrollable monsters who kill indiscriminately. Why is this in the story? The narrative wants to preach that beastmen aren't any different from humans, but then it adds this horrific mechanic to the story, where any beastman can possibly become the antagonist from a slasher horror movie with a raging boner for murder for no reason at all. This is completely counterproductive to the plot and the idea that all beastmen should be treated equally to humans. Speaking of bad ideas, there's just one character who's a bird beastman who is a hardcore terrorist, who attempts to assassinate the dictator of Anima City. Now, this is where you would believe, this is where the story will explore why beastmen are trying to destroy paradise on Earth, but gotcha! It's explained that the Birdman terrorist is an evil terrorist because he found out because he fought for beastman rights, he wouldn't be able to fly over other countries in the efforts to circumnavigate the world. I can't express how fucking stupid this is. Actually, I can. That's like living in the 17th century as a slave to find out upon running away, Masher would hunt you down and plaster your brains onto the pavement just because he could. This character is so fucking dumb. There isn't a drip pan deep enough to determine his intelligence. And thus, using his toilet brain logic, he tries to bomb the city because he didn't know fighting for something had consequences, then directed his hatred for humans onto the city folk because of course he does. The biggest galaxy brain move made in this show has to be the human beastman hybrid pretending to be the beastman deity named Genru, to then later reveal that deity is a human in hopes that for whatever reason, because it's a galaxy brain move, this wouldn't anger the already racist and xenophobic big people of the city because that makes sense. Oh yeah, you know, the big grand poobah of our entire species turned out to be a human in disguise, pretending to be him because she wanted to foster peace and tranquility in a city reigned by constant turmoil. Because that makes sense. Again, let me reiterate. I'm revealing I'm human would make a lot of sense and would calm the people of Anima City who are xenophobic and racist, because of course it does. It doesn't, but whoever wrote that line of dialogue had to have shaved off a couple of brain cells because it doesn't make a lick of rational sense. It may make sense if someone got high on a bottle of glue, but it doesn't if you're a middle schooler who knows their multiplication tables. So when I say this show just can't land on its feet, it's written so poorly. The characters have cardboard cutout motivations, the villains are evil because of course they are, and all the characters look like they have this sad look at their eyes, like they don't want to exist. It's not a joke when I say some of the characters in this anime have the intelligence of a wet rag. They eat trash, drink piss, and the characters living below the poverty line are happy to do so. Episode 1 through 6 of this anime serves subsequently as filler, as the main narrative starts when the cult of Ginru enters Anima City. But before entering the deep untapped reservoir of sewage, people are going to need to better understand what we're rummaging through. Beastmen in their anthropomorphized furry form are humanoid, however display overtly animalistic traits making them different from humans. But unlike the Morlock mutants from Marvel Comics, who can't transform or return to their human form, thus a normal beastman from BNA should be able to dwell amongst human society without ringing any major alarm bells unless they transform into their beastman form, or randomly become a giant raging induced kill machine because of emotional stress, or transform into their beastman form because of general stress. Thus, the reasoning why mutants in Marvel Comics and beastmen in BNA can't hide their existence like vampires in mythologies that are generally really good at killing people, shape-shifting, and having a variety of powers that allow them to be incognito, they can't be. As for the main character Michiru Kagomori, and the reason why a human out of the blue turns into a beastman, the story subsequently says, don't think about it. In Marvel Comics, can a human turn into a mutant? No. In Marvel Comics, can a human turn into an inhuman? No. In DC Comics, can a human turn into a metahuman? Yes. In Marvel Comics, mutants and inhumans are genetically based, and because most mutants have recessive mutant genes that are dormant and don't activate until pre-puberty or high stress situations, mutants can go dormant for a long time if they don't activate in puberty or encounter a life or death situation. As for the Inhumans from Marvel, they're genetically altering, gene-altering superpowers who come from the Terrigen Mist, a mutagenic or mutation-causing substance arisen as vapors from the Terrigen crystals, which are able to alter inhuman biology, aka already dormant genes that jumpstart their evolutionary process, which then gives them superpowers and mutations. But what does this mean? It means that this all amounts to humans can't become mutants unless they already had the genes to become mutants, and humans can't become inhuman unless they already were born with the genes to become inhuman. In BNA, the beastman gene factor works however the writers need it to. A human becomes a beastman no problem without any explanation because of course they can. You'd believe this would originally be the main conflict of the narrative, like Tokyo Ghoul, but it isn't. It's not even mentioned nor discussed by any of the characters. Speaking of character, what I have gone to describe is quite bad, but let's look at it a bit more closely with a microscope. What we have here is compassionate, brave, and energetic Michiru, caring both for beastmen and humans alike, and won't condone violence against anyone, even against terrorists, which doesn't make much sense, and goes to unreasonable great lengths to protect her peers even at her own expense because she's strong-willed in her actions. Or she has brain damage, at times placing her own opinions over others without understanding their perspective first, and despite being a toilet brain, we witness the events of the narrative through her eyes. Thus, she's more relatable than your typical cardboard cutout selfless protagonist. And considering she is an outsider looking inward into a culture she knows nothing about and has been thrusted into, this makes her compassionate and understanding for others whenever she displays it at time, a somewhat likable character trait, considering she's taking personal pain and converting it into positive actions that result in simple, understandable motives, which are discover why she turned into a beastman and how will she return to being a normal human being. The answer to the first question is of course stupid. The answer is she got a blood transfusion of beastman blood and she turned into a beastman, which is dumb. The second answer is no, she can't return to being a normal human being. The deuteragonist of this show is Shiro. He's racist. He's a beastman crawling up a chimney looking for every reason to hate humans just because. You'd believe being a immortal demigod would change someone's perspective a little bit, but nope, it doesn't. He doesn't have dick to show for any of his character, being a hollow archetypical racist character, knowing about how humanity sucks and beastmen rule. But if you watch the series in its entirety, the majority of the time he's cleaning up the mess beastmen make, because that's his job, protecting the beastmen, because he's an immortal demigod. In fact, he's very proud of being born a beastman to xenophobic levels, like every beastman supremacist, and he's very passionate towards his brethren, enjoys living alongside them, and even moved by the sight of them celebrating the authoritarian ethno-state they live in, where information from the outside world is censored like North Korea. And when you think about it, the network of informers, terror, propaganda, and levels of ignorance most of these characters display, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility that most of the beastmen terrorists were created by the government itself to ensure its populace remain docile against an already brutally oppressed and informationally controlled society, where again, the dictator is exempt from every rule everyone is forced to endure, and normal beastmen are forbidden from learning about the outside human society, which I again reiterate by saying it's restricted by law. Hang on a second, I'm on to something. It makes sense. Anima City is a miniature North Korea. Everyone is raised to believe that beastmen are genetically inferior to humans, and unifies all of these characters under the regime of it's a us versus them mentality to keep everyone in marching order. The terrorists that constantly attack the city are beastmen that are said to be working for humans with little to no proof that this is true, explaining why all the character motivations are one note and stupid. What I'm subsequently saying here is that the society of Anima City is a fascist utopia, with your favorite everyday party mix of rampant poverty, economic recessions, eroding public order, and it's all spearheaded by a coalition of interests with god-tier press teams. Now, if this all sounds familiar, it's because it's the exact buzzwords I use to describe the world of Redo of a Healer. But the difference between Redo of a Healer and Brand New Animal is that Redo of a Healer features mass murderers and rapists as primary characters, alongside evil bastards staring up at other characters from down in shit, who are just as evil, having the same genocidal fantasies and triple X rated red room sex fantasies the main antagonists have. But where Redo of a Healer has pedophile priests who go on holy crusades to rape and pillage and ethnically cleanse villages, BNA has festivals, holidays, and celebrations run by the government to celebrate Anima City's liberation from the human race. While the dictator of it all, a character named Barbara Rose, who has this Holocaust survivor's backstory, then forces these Nazi-like ideas onto the people she's responsible for protecting, with her ultimate reason why she's doing it is because she has to decide what people see and hear, so nobody would adopt the wrong ideas, which she'd read from the fascist guidebook to Dictatorship 101, having Anima City be a surveillance state that has Barbara knowing everything about everyone all the time. If you don't believe me, here are some visual aid. A coalition of interests, rampant poverty, economic recessions. When I said most of these characters were happy to live in poverty and drink piss, that wasn't a joke. Some of these characters are so stupid, they share the intelligence of a goldfish. The anime showcases this as something to laugh at, but these characters are homeless and are literally fighting to survive. It's not funny in a shameless, frank kind of way. It's legitimate strife and struggles of these homeless characters that shouldn't be laughed at considering the environment they're in, but also considering that a cult rolls through and brainwashes the entire slum in about one episode. That should really tell you something about Anima City. Yes, Studio Trigger made Kill la Kill. Yes, Kill la Kill takes place in a totalitarian-run society where the oppressed are ruled by the Iron Fist disciplinaries who abuse their power and are constantly toppled by reoccurring antagonists vying for power. But the overall message of Kill la Kill is about characters revolting against the social class-based system and not bending over and taking it up the ass and accepting it like characters in BNA do. But then again, there isn't much character any character has besides the vague characteristics Michiru and Shiro showcase, which aren't very asymmetrical or dynamic. But the worst offender out of all of them are Netsuna, another human that transformed into a beastman who previously went to high school. Let me reiterate, she went to school in a human society. High school. Then became a power-hungry singing idol and a religious figurehead of a cult centered around impersonating a god to bring false hope to the impoverished and suffering people of Anima City in the beliefs of that it's the right thing to do. But her intentions aren't as altruistic as you'd believe, considering her primary motivation as a character is being an attention whore, wanting to become a big-time idol with international acclaim. The narrative tries to imply this character became detached from her emotions due to, brainwashing. But that doesn't explain why she had a change of heart later in the series. Brainwashing can't be overcome with friendship, especially when that said character has been psychologically conditioned to embody a certain mindset and persona. But overall, the cult centers around the worship of Genru, a wolf deity that protects beastmen during crisis in history, who later revealed to be that character Shiro without much surprise. Anyway, in one episode, Nezuna is manipulating characters like she's Hannibal Lecter to get what she wants, which is to move the cult into the main district of Anima City because they're currently located in the slums, while in the following episodes, she's just an evil bitch. Then the last two episodes, she does the right thing for the right reasons because it's the right thing to do because the narrative told her to. But the right thing to do is to not involve yourself with these obviously insane and evil people. And by the end of the anime, she gets what she wants. She becomes like an international sensation. And the fact that she was the ringleader of a cult gets swept underneath a rug like it never happened. There is zero character progression. It's just something that happens. And this is particularly bad because this is the focal point that gravitates around the main protagonist and antagonist of the series, who also isn't well developed. Meet Alan Salvesta, your stereotypical evil businessman who does evil things revealed to be a genocidal maniac. He's a human that wants to remove the beastman gene from all beastmen because he's human and he hates beastmen and love experimenting on them, until he's revealed to be a beastman himself, and it's also revealed that he's an immortal monster who has been controlling humanity for centuries on end through networking and his longevity. But why would a beastman try to ethnically cleanse his entire species? You'd believe there's a good rational reason for this, but considering there's only 10 minutes left in the anime, gotcha! 10 minutes left in the anime! Episode 12, the bad guy finally reveals why he's doing what he's doing. It's revealed that Alan is a purebred beastman, and that he hates humans and beastmen alike. And because everyone else in Anima City is a hybrid beastman, and because he wants to preserve a pure bloodline and can't have any imposters walking the earth, instead of looking into something like, I don't know, eugenics like a normal Nazi, he opts out to ethnically cleanse the entire city by carpet bombing it because of course he does. Throughout this series, you're supposed to assume that Alan's corporation is full of skeevy evil assholes, but this takes the cake for the worst villain motivation ever. It's evil for the sake of being evil, and just when I thought the show wouldn't have an evil rapey villain, there he is. Then there's this, I don't even know what to call it, Ex Machina mode? Super Saiyan mode? I don't know. If a beastman bathes in the blood of 1,000 other beastmen, they unlock immortality and the ability to use a kind of Super Saiyan mode. For example, Shiro is able to turn into Sif from Dark Souls, while Alan transforms into the Cerberus from the Gates of Hades. Either way, it's stupid. It comes out of nowhere. I'm almost kind of surprised aliens didn't show up. This show died on a hill as soon as the silly narrative started taking precedence over exploring how people live in the city. There's actually good episodes within this anime. I mean, there's actually one good singular episode in this anime, but everything beyond episode 6 is garbage, while everything beneath episode 5 is mediocre. Episode 5 is memorable because it revolves around a professional baseball player who had to quit his career because people found out he was a beastman. So when he moved to Anima City, he became a dried up old deadbeat alcoholic that rigs baseball games now, which was his favorite hobby that became his career that he eventually lost. The overall message in the episode was to follow your dreams progress even in the face of inconceivable odds and discrimination. It's a fun episode distinctively because in Anima City Baseball, teams are allowed to kill one another for entertainment and killing the other team results in a win. It's just so stupid it's kinda just enjoyable, but the remainder of the anime is garbage. The animations are impactful and nice and free-flowing and smooth like every Studio Trigger anime, but the anime itself is just so politically incorrect and brain-dead stupid at times. It's just not kinda worth it to watch. Maybe I was onto something with my Anima City is North Korea theory, but the show makes more sense if you look at it from that context. And though the writers most likely didn't intend for the show to be viewed that way, the show is a solid 3 out of 10. There's a lot to appreciate from the micro details and the art design, but the story is just garbage and disappointing sadly. Ciao!